So hello and welcome everybody. Welcome to the next episode of Watering the Soul with Ali O'Shea, where I'm reading the book Mind Power into the 21st Century by John Kehoe. And it's Techniques to Harness the Astounding Powers of Thought by John Kehoe. So we're going to start today on chapter 16, Healing Ourselves. The mind is a great healer. Hippocrates. Can the mind play a part in determining a person's sickness or health? What goes on in a patient's mind is often the key to whether he will get well, says Dr. Carl Sidmonton. Dr. Sidmonton is a medical director of the Sidmonton Cancer Center in Pacific Palisades, California, and an intentionally acclaimed physician. He talks enthusiastically about the results he is obtaining by treating disease with visualization techniques. We think people are now beginning to realize how much the mind and the physical body are intertwined. Now we know it is possible for the cycle of disease to be reversed. We know that the same pathways are used to transmit negative things, like cancer growth, can also be used to transmit positive things that eventually restore a person to health. We are talking about some major changes in the way people view all illnesses and how they can cure themselves. Dr. Sidmonton and his colleagues are doing more than just talking, for his clinic achieves substantially greater than average cure rates for cancer, and he travels the country teaching other doctors how they can do the same. In over 30 years, I have taught my mind power training seminars to hundreds of thousands of people, and I have seen incredible results, from people becoming millionaires or multimillionaires to people winning major sports championships. These are impressive achievements, but most fulfilling of all for me has been my experience in seeing hundreds of people cure themselves of illnesses using these techniques. Let me introduce you to Martin Brothman. He can tell you his own story. At the age of 34, I found myself in hospital, being told by my doctors that I had a tumor that was embedded within the spinal cord. The tumor was malignant, and I was diagnosed as terminal. I was told I had 2 months to 1 year to live. After several weeks of total despair, I decided to try and help myself. For 15 minutes, twice a day, I began meditating. On an imaginary screen in my mind, I pictured my body and the tumor. Each time I saw the tumor, I imagined it just a bit smaller than the last time I saw it. It was all in my mind after all. I could imagine it any way I chose. I imagined that I could see the cancerous cells being dispersed by my body's natural immune system, and I told myself that they were being passed out of my body each time I went to the bathroom. Whenever I heard an inner voice suggesting that I was not getting better, I would quiet it, insisting that I was, in fact, in a state of improvement. I repeated to myself over and over while in this meditative state. Every day, in every way, I am getting better and better, until I believed it. In addition to the meditation sessions, I decided to reinforce my feelings of improvement in other ways. Each time I felt a strange sensation or pain in my body, instead of telling myself that it was the tumor growing, bringing me closer to my death, I told myself that it was energy working on the tumor, shrinking it, making it smaller and smaller, making me better and better. I looked forward to the sensations that I had formerly dreaded. All during the day, every day, I reminded myself of all the ways in which I was getting better. I imagined that the food I ate was energized, making me healthier and healthier. I reminded myself continually of all the people who loved me, and I affirmed to myself that this love was energy I could put to use to strengthen the healing process even more. I had no way of knowing whether all of these techniques were working or not, but I decided that if I felt better, they just might be. I had increasing mobility and energy every day, just as I was telling myself. 2 months after I began my reprogramming my mind, I was due for an examination by my doctor. The doctor was amazed. He found no evidence of a tumor at all. He could not believe it. This is exactly what I had visualized his reaction to be. I drove home, laughing all the way, to tell my wife the wonderful news. This is far from an isolated case. There are countless examples of health being restored using similar techniques. I remember a time when I was saying this to a group of students and a woman stood up and shared this story. Ever since I was a little girl, I have always said to myself, I'm the type of person who never gets colds. I've always said that to myself. And you know what? I never get colds. The minute she finished, a well-dressed man in his 50s popped up. This is very interesting, he said, because for as long as I can remember, I've always said to myself, every year I'm good for 1 or 2 colds. I've always said that to myself. And you know what? Every year I get 1 or 2 colds. We all laughed, yet there is an important lesson to be learned here. In 1981, US President Ronald Reagan, who was shot in the lung by an attempted assassin. This was quite a serious injury, especially for a man in his 70s. But I knew he would be all right the minute I read a report from a journalist who had interviewed the president on his hospital bed. Reagan had said, "Don't worry about me. I'm the type of person who heals quickly." What a healing belief. How powerful. Do you remember how quickly he was back at work? Within days. Now, let me ask you a question. What do you believe about yourself? Are you the type of person who says if there's a flu around, I'll catch it? Do you expect to contract colds and flus and illnesses? Or do you believe you are the type of person who never gets sick? What you believe is going to happen. What you believe is going to happen has a powerful effect on what does happen. In a set of experiments described by Jerome Frank, an authority on the placebo effect, you can see clearly how what you believe affects what happens to you. In Frank's experiments, test patients were given one of 3 different substances: a very mild painkiller, a harmless but ineffective placebo, and a heavy dose of morphine. When patients were given the useless placebos, they were told they were getting morphine. 2/3 reported their pain had disappeared. When patients were given morphine but were told they were getting a very mild painkiller, over half said they still had pain. And when patients were given a harmless placebo, which they had been told caused headaches, in previous experiments, 3/4 of them developed headaches. Whatever the patients believed was happening seems to have been more important than what was actually happening. Medical authorities had already recognized the placebo effect. But this experiment went even further with some very interesting results. Unknown to the doctors, they too were being deceived, and the results were astounding. When the doctors administered a placebo under the impression that it was morphine, its effect on the patients increased. The experiment was then reversed, and when doctors thought the morphine they were administering was a placebo, its effect on the patients diminished. Obviously, what the doctors believed influenced the results as much as what the patients believed. But how could this be? How could what a doctor thinks possibly influence the patient? Isn't it what the patient thinks counts? Or could it be that the doctor somehow subconsciously transfers to the patient his expectation of how the drug would affect him? If so, this is something to remember when a friend or someone close to us is ill. Our own attitude can be a valuable source of healing for both ourselves and others. The body is a healing mechanism. Your body is a miraculous self-healing mechanism built to look after anything that happens to it. When you cut yourself, white corpuscles instantly rush to the spot to fight infection, while the platelets congeal the blood and seal up the cut. It all happens automatically. You don't have to do a thing. Your body knows already how to repair itself. When you eat, your body extracts nutrients from the food and dispenses them as energy to various parts of the body as required. It then discards the rest as waste, and again, it all happens automatically. You don't have to think about it or direct it. Break your arm and you go to the doctor, and the doctor heals your broken arm, right? Wrong. No doctor has ever healed a broken arm in his life. The doctor can align the bones to make sure they are straight, and he can put the arm in a cast to keep them that way, but only the body can heal the broken bones. Remind yourself often that your body naturally heals and repairs itself. Insert thoughts of health and strength in your mind, and you encourage it to happen. Affirm to yourself, my body is a healing mechanism. A 2-minute health tonic. Every day, spend several minutes bathing in thoughts of health and strength. Send those thoughts into your bloodstream, your tissues, your cells. Imagine energy flowing through you. Experience your body as a miraculous healing mechanism. This exercise is an invigorating health tonic, and all it takes is 2 minutes of your day. Your attitude makes the difference. When you first find out that you have a disease or illness, the initial response is to panic. The mind becomes paralyzed with fear, and the greater the illness, the greater the fear. Part of the problem is that we see our disease as an alien entity or a thing rather than as a process. Wallace Ellerbrook, former surgeon turned psychiatrist, says it eloquently. We doctors seem to have a predilection for nouns in naming diseases. Epilepsy, measles, cancer, tumors. And because we use nouns as names, then obviously they are things to us. If you take one of these nouns, measles, and make it into a verb, then it becomes, Mrs. Jones, your little boy appears to be measling. Or, Mrs. Baker, you seem to be tumoring. Which opens both your mind and hers to the concept of a disease as a process which comes and then goes. Certainly, Dr. Ellerbrook's approach is a more accurate way to look at illness. Dr. Kenneth Pelletier of Stanford University School of Medicine points out that the body can't tell the difference between a real threat and a perceived one. Our worries and negative expectations translate into physical illness because the body feels as if we are endangered, even if the threat is imaginary. In other words, people who fear diseases are more likely to get disease because the body feels the effect of fear itself. This phenomenon has long been observed in the area of conception. A Boston project, for example, found a 60% miscarriage rate in women who got pregnant soon after losing a baby to sudden infant death syndrome. The report urged that such bereaved women should wait until the body is no longer feeling the effects of grief. And how many times have you heard of childless couples trying unsuccessfully to have a baby until finally they give up and adopt a child? Within months, the woman is pregnant. It happened once the pressure to have a baby had been lifted. Fun and joy can heal. It is no secret that depressed people become ill more readily than happy, easygoing types. Research has shown that stressful mental states like greed, anxiety, worry, and fear can hinder the immune system. To combat this, several enlightened hospitals have set up humor rooms, stocked with funny books, records, videos, cartoons, and movies, which patients can enjoy. Recent medical research into humor and health has shown that laughter releases two important types of hormones from the brain, enkephalins and endorphins, which relieve pain, tension, and depression. There have been all kinds of reports in both folk and professional literature about people who have been cured or at least helped by the use of laughter and humor, says Shirley Rootliff, a Hamilton, Ontario therapist. Today, even traditional health professionals are making use of these findings. Everyone is different. Dr. Patricia Norris of the Carl Menninger Foundation, who teaches patients to use mind power to combat disease, tells the story of a 9-year-old boy who cured himself of a malignant tumor using a Star Wars visualization technique. Garrett Potter was a terminal case. He estimated he only had about 6 months to live. He had a virulent, malignant type of humor. Radiation treatments had failed. Surgery was out of the question because of the tumor's location. If he fell down, he couldn't pick himself up. Using his mind, he visualized his immune system as powerful. It was a Star Wars-like visualization. He saw his brain as the solar system and his tumor as an evil invading villain. He visualized himself as the leader of a spacefighter squadron, fighting the tumor and winning. Garrett used the technique for 20 minutes each night. At first, his condition worsened, and then it gradually began to get better. 5 months later, a brain scan was taken. The tumor was gone. The visualization technique was the only therapy employed after it had been concluded that the radiation therapy had failed. Everyone is different. The technique which worked for Garrett Potter may not be appropriate for everyone. Sometimes a gentler approach is needed. Dr. David Bresler, director of the Los Angeles Pain Control Unit, describes a technique he used to help a patient. The guy was in terrible pain. We tried everything we could think of. Finally, I decided to use guided imagery. Telling the man to take a comfortable position in an office chair, Dr. Bresler asked him to picture his pain as concretely as possible. The patient soon said that he could see a large, vicious dog snapping at his spine. He was then asked to imagine himself making friends with the dog, talking to it. As he did so, the patient found his pain subsiding, until after a few sessions, it disappeared. Like many people, he recovered his health only when he stopped fighting his illness. Athlete Kevin O'Neill saved his career by using the power of his mind. After a serious cycling accident, one of his hands was badly shattered and his confidence shaken just weeks before a major triathlon. But he visualized going inside his body and physically putting his broken bones together. As a result of his visualization, the bones healed twice as fast as expected, and he was able to compete in the event. The stories go on and on. Dr. Paul Rennie of Vancouver, British Columbia, sums it up nicely when he says, "The mind is one untapped resource we have yet to fully explore. This is what we should be investigating." and no less an authority than Nobel laureate Joshua Lederberg, has called this area of investigation the most important step in medicine today. Our health is our responsibility. We must take an active role in our health and healing. If sick, we should not just give way to our illness, but we should share in the responsibility for our treatment. When all is said and done, as Dr. Albert Schweitzer always proclaimed, the real doctor is the doctor within. Chapter 17. Prosperity Consciousness. To you, the earth yields her fruit, and you shall not want if you know how to fill your hands. Khalil Gibran. Anyone desiring financial independence must first develop a prosperity consciousness. Notice I said develop, because prosperity consciousness does not happen by chance. No one is born with it, nor can it be given to you. It is a state of mind tuned and vibrating to expect, acknowledge, and see prosperity and opportunities everywhere. The opposite of prosperity consciousness is scarcity consciousness, and it's all most people know. Scarcity consciousness expects and acknowledges lack and limitation and sees it everywhere, like signposts on a road, which seems to lead only to want, poverty, and hard times. No one will ever achieve financial success with a scarcity consciousness. It isn't possible. You cannot simultaneously travel both the path to riches and the path to poverty, for they go in opposite directions. Both roads are clearly marked. There is no great mystery. Whatever path you have chosen to travel will determine what will ultimately happen to you. Do you have prosperity consciousness or scarcity consciousness? If you find you have scarcity consciousness, your task is clear. You must rid yourself of this mental ball and chain and develop the necessary prosperity consciousness. There are 5 steps to follow in building a prosperity consciousness. Step number 1, develop prosperity beliefs. There are 4 main prosperity beliefs. Prosperity belief number 1, it's an abundant universe. Prosperity consciousness believes it's an abundant universe, that there is lots of everything for everyone if we open ourselves up to it. Look at nature. Lavish, extravagant, even wasteful in its abundance. Try and count the number of stars in the sky. You cannot. No one ever has or ever will. They number in the hundreds of billions. Look at wildflowers in a field, spreading out far beyond what your eyes can see. Everywhere you look is abundance. Likewise, in the marketplace, opportunities exist everywhere if you focus your mind to see them. The only scarcity that exists is in our own consciousness. Scarcity consciousness says, there's not enough to go around. If I have a lot, then someone goes without. Or, if I get a promotion, someone else misses out. Scarcity consciousness believes that everyone is competing against everyone else for the same things, and that there are no opportunities, or that there is very little money, and everything is so expensive. Watch closely to see if you have any of these beliefs, for it is a sure sign that scarcity consciousness has crept into your mind. Prosperity belief number 2. Life is fun and rewarding. Scarcity consciousness believes that life is hard and filled with problems and difficulties. Scarcity consciousness believes you have to work hard for everything you get. I've met many people who believe you have to work hard for everything you get, and they always work hard for everything. How could it be anything other than that with that belief? Remember what I said earlier about beliefs. The conscious mind will always give you ample evidence to support whatever belief you choose. Many people believe that life is harsh and difficult, and for them, it always is. Scarcity consciousness looks for and expects problems, difficulties, disappointments, and frustrations, and it always finds them. Prosperity consciousness looks at life as an adventure. It expects rewards. It looks for the fun and joy in life and always finds them. When problems and difficulties come, they are seen as challenges, and the opportunities that each contains are sought after and used. Prosperity consciousness appreciates life and knows that with every challenge comes greater rewards, new adventures, and more fun. Life is full, rich, and rewarding, and new experiences and more success lie just around every corner. Prosperity belief number 3. There are staggering numbers of opportunities in every aspect of my life. Scarcity consciousness believes there are no opportunities around, that the best you can expect is what's happening right now. It tricks you into believing that it doesn't matter what you do, that all the good ideas have been taken, or that the time isn't right to start new ones. With scarcity consciousness, the situation is always hopeless, and there's never any point in trying. Prosperity consciousness believes there are staggering numbers of opportunities in every aspect of your life. Staggering numbers. Not 1 or 2 or 5 or 10, but staggering numbers of opportunities. Where are they, you ask? Why? Everywhere. Open up your eyes, open up your mind with prosperity consciousness, and you'll quickly begin to see them. Let me share a story with you which illustrates this. Several years ago on Easter Sunday, I got up early and hid 10 small presents for the special woman in my life. The minute she awoke, I told her I had hidden some presents for her. She bounded from the bed, began searching excitedly, and after half an hour, she had found 3 presents. She sat down quite happily, thinking that was all there was there. There's more than that, I said, which had her up in a flash, searching for more. She managed to find 2 more, and then, thinking there couldn't possibly be any more, she stopped looking. After lunch, I casually mentioned, "Oh, by the way, I hid 10 presents." 10! She exclaimed in amazement, and again began searching, going over the same area, but this time really looking hard. She eventually found all 10, but had I not told her that there were 10 presents, she would have stopped at 3, fully believing she'd found them all. Likewise, if you believe there are only a limited number of opportunities, then chances are that you will only find a few, if any. Why make any further effort searching for opportunities that don't exist? But if you believe there are staggering numbers of opportunities in every aspect of your life, then you will actively search them out. Think about it. Staggering opportunities for abundant health. Staggering opportunities to make new relationships. Staggering opportunities to advance yourself. Staggering opportunities to become closer to your family. Staggering opportunities to live a fun-filled life. Staggering numbers of opportunities to make a great deal of money. Let's look at making money. I love the free enterprise system. I love a system that rewards ingenuity and imagination. Anyone can make a great deal of money if armed with the right ideas and the right attitude. The marketplace is an exciting phenomenon, dynamic and ever-changing, seething with opportunities waiting to be tried. Tens of billions of dollars exchange hands every day. Money is in constant motion, flowing in every direction, so why not take your share by contributing to the system? Each year, in North America, over 700,000 new businesses open. Every single one of them represents new opportunities, for each will need printing, accounting, legal work, advertising, staff, maintenance, signs, office furniture, opportunities everywhere. The United States in 1940 had 10,000 millionaires. In 1980, the population doubled, but the number of millionaires had mushroomed to 500,000. By 1997, the number had swelled to over 2 million. Even considering inflation, this is an astonishing increase. Opportunities everywhere. Never before in the history of civilization has there been an environment so rapidly changing as the one we live in today. Things are changing all the time, and what is new and revolutionary this week becomes outdated in 6 months. This whirlwind environment means that opportunities are rapidly being created each and every hour. Every day, there are thousands of new opportunities that didn't exist yesterday. Opportunities everywhere. Billionaire Bill Gates, co-founder of Microsoft, shares these sentiments. I think it is a wonderful time to be alive. There have never been so many opportunities to do things that were impossible before. It's the best time ever to start new companies and ventures. Where are your opportunities? Jump into the action and find them. They surround you. Prosperity belief number 4. It is my responsibility to be successful. Scarcity consciousness believes that having lots of money is wrong, that you should only have enough for your basic needs, and that having anything beyond that deprives other people. Scarcity consciousness believes that successful people are selfish, greedy, neglect their families, and have their priorities wrong. Prosperity consciousness believes that having lots of money is good, and that it is your responsibility to be successful. It believes this because it understands that the more money you make, the greater your potential for helping people, especially financially. It only makes sense. How can a philanthropist give a charity $10,000 or $10,000 if he hasn't allowed himself to acquire it in the first place? Money can be used in many ways to help and benefit those around us. Enjoy your prosperity and help others to prosper as well. When you are prosperous, you can give to many charities, help friends, give to those less fortunate, create an immense amount of financial energy and direct it wherever you wish. It is your duty and responsibility to become successful, have lots of money, and help all those you can to prosper in their lives as well. The first step in building a prosperity consciousness is to imprint the 4 prosperity beliefs into your subconscious mind. It's an abundant universe. Life is fun and rewarding. Staggering opportunities exist for me in every aspect of my life. And it is my responsibility to be successful. Step 2. Look for and acknowledge abundance in the now of your life. You are surrounded by abundance right now. All you need to do is open your eyes and look for it. Don't wait for money to come your way before you feel prosperous. Feel prosperous now. Do you have an abundance of friends? An abundance of good health? An abundance of ideas or clothes or time? Look for areas in your life where you can feel the abundance. How I programmed my mind for prosperity and became wealthy. Let me tell you how I first began reprogramming my mind for prosperity. I was living in a small cabin deep in the woods with no electricity and no running water. I had no money, but I understood the principles of prosperity and began reprogramming my mind. As I cut my firewood, I would give thanks for the abundance all around me. While stacking the wood, I would say, not 1 piece of wood, not 2, not 10, but an abundance of wood to keep me warm. When I ate my meals, I would praise myself and the universe for the abundance I had. If I had a bowl of grapes in front of me, I would count them one by one. Not just 1 grape, not just 2 grapes, but an abundance of grapes. Walking in the woods, I would see prosperity all around me. Fields filled with thousands of wildflowers, trees everywhere, birds and wildlife in abundance. Nature was indeed bountiful. Even though I had no money, I kept my mind focused on abundance. I knew that if I kept my mind focused in this way, the manifestation of abundance would soon follow. When I gave my first public lecture, because I had very little money, I was staying in a third-class hotel. I was embarrassed about this and made sure that no one saw me leave or enter. Often in the afternoons, I would go into the lobby of a first-class hotel to absorb the energy and vibration of the place. Soon, I was making enough money to stay in first-class hotels, and I praised the universe for its abundance. One day, while walking down the corridor of my hotel, I glanced into a room which was being cleaned and was amazed to see a large living room with no beds. I coaxed the cleaning woman to let me come in and look around. I was surprised to see that there were 2 rooms, a large living room and a separate bed. It was my first introduction to a suite. That day, I began visualizing myself staying in suites, and one day I finally rented one. I couldn't really afford it, but I wanted the vibration of wealth, even if just for one evening. I walked around my suite, feeling abundant. I sat down on the plush sofa and put my feet up on the table. This was real. I had made it to a suite, even if it was just for one night. I praised the universe for its abundance. Gradually, I began staying in suites more and more. At first, I was making a little bit of money, then more, until lots of money was flowing my way. Napoleon Hill, financial mentor to many great men, once exclaimed, "When big money begins to come, it comes so quickly and in such large amounts, you wonder where it was hiding during all those lean years." It certainly worked that way with me. I still remember the day I realized I had really arrived financially. It was at a party I was giving to celebrate my 5-year anniversary of teaching thought dynamics. I was in Sydney, Australia, on a world tour, and I was staying at the presidential suite at the Sheraton Hotel. It was a lavish suite. The living room was almost the size of the lobby. A huge glass wall ran from floor to ceiling across the entire suite, and below me all Sydney lay at my feet. The Opera House, the harbour, the sparkling city lights. It was a majestic sight. I was entertaining my guests when I remember thinking, what a change of fortune. I excused myself for a moment and went to the bedroom, and then out into the private balcony overlooking the ocean. In just 5 years, I had gone from living in a cabin with no electricity or running water to entertaining my friends in the presidential suite of one of the world's finest hotels. Not only that, but I had checked in for an entire month. Money was no longer an object. I thought back to how I first began programming my mind for prosperity and the fruit it now bore, and I thanked the universe for the secrets of success that had been revealed to me. I made a silent promise that I would pass these secrets on to others, and then I rejoined my guests. Begin programming your mind right now for prosperity. I began my prosperity programming in deepest poverty. There is no situation you can't begin prosperity programming. Step 3. Recognize and associate with success everywhere. Train yourself to see success everywhere you look. Everywhere you look, there is prosperity. Go to the center of your city and look at the huge office towers. Think of all the successes that is contained in just one of the buildings. You can be assured that the architect who designed the building made a great deal of money for doing so. The contractor who built the building probably made a small fortune. The owners of the building are obviously rich and successful men. The people who rent the lavish offices must also be successful. Now imagine how wealthy and powerful those who rent the top penthouse suites must be. Just that one building represents so much success. And you can multiply that success by the number of buildings in your city. And that's just the beginning. Prosperity consciousness recognizes there is success all around us if we just open our eyes to see it. Never begrudge someone else's good fortune. Acknowledge it and feel good about it, for it is proof that it can be done. Then confidently remind yourself that you can do it too. Look for and acknowledge success everywhere you can find it. It is scarcity consciousness which resents success and tries to put down those who have achieved it. Guard yourself against these thoughts as if they were a deadly poison, for they are indeed mental poison to your personal prosperity. Always acknowledge and feel joy and happiness every time you see success, whether it is your own or others. Open up your eyes and notice that success is everywhere, all around you, in abundance. It will be yours too if you can adjust your thinking to prosperity. Step number 4. Read inspirational books. Listen to self-help tapes. Join groups and organizations that desire success. Everything you do becomes a part of you. This book you are now reading is filled with life-changing principles that will make a tremendous impact on your life if you apply them. If you have the opportunity to attend my Thought Dynamics course, I encourage you to do so. But drink from all sources: self-help books and groups, literature, sound advice, anything that inspires you to succeed. Step 5. Associate with successful people, both real and imaginary. If you want to be a filmmaker, associate with other filmmakers. If you want to be an artist, find other artists. If you want to be successful, seek out the company of successful people. The energy of success rubs off when you are in its company. Successful people think successful thoughts, make successful decisions, create successful plans, complete successful projects. You can pick up that energy and use it by being in their company. Your responsibility is to succeed. You have to understand deeply that having what you want in life contributes to the general state of human happiness and supports others in creating success for themselves. Success never takes away from others, but rather creates success for and helps others. The more successful an economy, the more opportunities exist for everyone. The more money you have, the more you spend on goods and services, which creates additional money and profit for other people to spend on goods and services, and so on. When successful people help others, it is an example to everyone, and so their success rubs off on everyone. You have a duty and a responsibility to become successful for yourself, your children, your friends, and everyone who comes into contact with you. Everyone will benefit. Your success helps many people. Your failure helps no one. Think about that statement before you settle for anything less than success. Realize your success is more than just personal ambition. It is your responsibility. Don't be selfish. Succeed. The world needs you. So there you have it, chapters 16 and 17 of Mind Power. I'd like to thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope that you can enjoy the final episode next week of Mind Power into the 21st Century with myself, Ali O'Shea. For now, I'm going to love you and leave you. Namaste and good afternoon from Ireland.